at the risk of sounding too much like a layperson, which I am, when it comes to technical debt, how how often do you decide to continue to layer versus we just need a full blown rewrite? Because I know that the commitment to the latter is so great that there's got to be like, I mean, there's got to be a tipping point, it's got to be a lot, right, before you just say we've got to just start from scratch.
Yeah, so fascinating question. And by the way, the topic of tech debt, I mean, how much time do we have?
Yeah.
Like, I can talk for hours on tech debt, because in my opinion, that is probably the most challenging aspect of IT today
Okay.
is tech debt. Now, to your question, first of all, you can't fix what you don't measure. And so to even understand that, hey, we have to scrap this and go do the new thing, you have to recognize that the thing you're going to scrap is tech debt. You have to make that conscious understanding. And I think that's a stumbling block for a lot of companies. They don't even recognize what is tech debt and what isn't. And so that's where you have to start. Once you make that determination and you say, look, this thing is a problem. It's holding back our business. We can't make the progress from a business perspective that we want to make because this thing is holding us back. Well, then you have to figure out, what are you going to do with that thing? Are you going to upgrade it? Is it still part of your plan? And so you have to fix whatever the problem is. You have to make it more scalable. You have to improve that solution. Or is the solution to scrap it and go with something, maybe you have a custom developed solution and you're going off the shelf. So these are decisions that you have to make long before you start to figure out, well, when do we scrap this and when do we flip the switch and move from this to this, right?
Sure.
And so again, I can go on for hours about tech debt, but these are the things that companies struggle to make those decisions. And so then you can't even get to the point of saying, well, how long do we live with this until we move to this? Because do you know you need to move, right? You have to make those strategic IT decisions first. And then to finally get to answering your question, it really depends, which is the worst answer, right? But it's always the answer. It depends.
Sure, of course.
Because at some point, you're going to flip the switch. At some point, you're going to say, this is now dead. This is the new world. But you can run the two often. You can run the two in parallel. You're building this while you're still operating this. You're not, I don't think it's very common that you're going to say, we need to scrap this and just start over.
Sure.
Right? Because you have to have something that you're using for that. Theoretically, this piece of technical debt is some critical functionality for your business.
Sure.
So you can start building this. And so I've done that many times in my career where we know that this particular thing, so one that comes to mind, I was working at the mortgage company, and our custom developed solution was literally hampering the business. Like every day between 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning, the system would start to slow down because people across the country were starting to get in, they were getting on the system and it was getting overloaded. And I would get a phone call from the CEO. Hey, Ken, why are our systems slow? Well, the same reason they were slow yesterday. It's this is the problem that we have with this custom developed solution. Now, there were two options. One, go with an off-the-shelf solution and get rid of the custom developed, or two, fix the custom developed solution. Well, again, there's a long story here. I'll keep it short, but what we ended up deciding was the immediate fix was to fix the custom developed solution. And to do that, the root cause was the underlying database. The database itself was not scalable. And so we had to replace the database. So we continued to fix as much as we could. We continued to tweak and work on this custom solution. every day, right? Pulling out, trying to optimize queries, getting people off the system that weren't using it, doing all those things that would keep it running. While at the same time, I had a very small team of engineers building out this new database and creating this solution so that at some point, and it took us, if I remember correctly, 5 months, 4 or 5 months, but we finally got to the point where this was now ready. Literally overnight, we flipped the switch, we moved this over to the new database, and the next morning, everything was working. And of course, my boss called me up and said, "How come you didn't do that sooner?"
Yeah. Oh, that's, and I think, you could talk about tech debt. I have so many just naturally, I've got a natural curiosity when it comes to so much of what you said, but
Yeah,
we'll be here for 3 hours if we
I can
we
go
go
on. Yeah.
yeah, if we go down the rabbit hole.